Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Class Mateo, and he will be a new promo character coming into the game. Now if you look at Mateo, you may have a little bit of deja vu, and that is because he is exactly the same as Class Willie, who was going to be released 2 weeks ago and then was withdrawn or cancelled for whatever reason, and Eugene took his place, if you remember. Kind of strange situation. What I'm going to do is I'm still going to review this character like it's brand new to me, just for sort of like history and archive sake, so if people look back at this video in the future because they want to know about Mateo, this will be my first look view at Mateo. But he is identical to Willie. It's really strange, and I guess it's down to some of the aspects of his kit and the visuals of Willie in terms of just PR not being very good there. They decided not to release Willie as he was at the time. But we will take a fresh look at Mateo. In terms of the visuals, I'm not sure what Mateo is get up here. He's got this sort of like navy tattoos on his arm. I guess he's a fisherman of. I'm guessing, this is what my thought is, he's a chef, because he's got these trousers on that look sort of like either chef trousers on like a big ship, you know, like a fighter ship. This is what I've got in a Navy fighter ship, and I don't know, he looks really strange. I'm going to be honest, his get up is very odd, but he has got a moustache, so instantly you know he's a badass. That's straight up. If he's got a moustache that well looked after in the apocalypse, it's all good. We look at his stats, however: 3,903 attack, 4,215 defense, and 4,148 HP. His trait is strong and role is support. Adrenaline rush is called Hampering Enigma. It is a 66 AP cost rush, so pretty fast. It deals 300% damage to a line of enemies. Those enemies get 50% slow, 75% heal reduction, and daze for 2 turns. So a reasonable amount of stuff going on here. It's got heavy debuffing side of this and a fairly low damaging side of this, if I'm honest, especially considering he's got an average to low damage stat. This is with 30 veteran rings as well, so I think that would have been better, instead of being 300% damage, to actually being bleed. And the main reason I say this is because then he'd have more options to be used on multiple teams. He could potentially be used on a bleed team, even if it was only, let's say, 300 to 500 bleed. It could be multiplied by a lacerator pretty quickly. There are lacerators even in the S-Class era now, and there is a strong lacerator because it is Dayu. She has got Bloodthirst as a dual specialist, which means when she hits a crit, she will apply crosshairs, but any bleed that's on a character, she'll double it instantly because she also has Lacerator as the second half of that specialist skill. So it would have worked great with Mateo, but it's not going to be the case. The second half of this is got fairly good control. Those enemies get 50% slow, which means obviously while this rush isn't going to kill people, it is going to reduce their AP massively. It's going to be 2 more turns till they rush most of the time, unless there's a command on the enemy team. 75% heal reduction is not great. I've never really liked 75% heal reduction. Obviously, when you look at what heal reduction does, the difference between 75% and 100%, while it fully blocks the heal, it also blocks revives, and that can make a big difference. 75% isn't going to do much except slow down heal gain, and that will combat things like high levels of infection. Your 150%, your 200% plus infection. Now the last bit is daze for 2 turns, and while I think daze is great, I think it's one of the best things in the game. You have to get off, generally speaking, before turn 1 and 2, and most of the time Mateo's going to rush on turn 3. Most of the time. He could rush a little bit earlier if he had the right weapons in the right team, but most of the time he's going to rush on turn 3, and most of the really dangerous actives would have happened by then. Now there will be some actives that won't have like revives and stuff, and that'll be pretty decent. It is only 2 turns, however, so there will be a small gap, which I prefer. So there's a little bit of maneuvering for an attack team if you're going to use them on attack, or for your attack team when you come up against him on defense. So the rush, not the best, but that isn't the main part of his kit at all. The big danger is within the active skill. It is infection and crit up. It is initial cooldown of 1, cooldown of 2, number of uses 5. Up to 4 enemies get 15% infection for 3 turns, this character gets 100 crit for 2 turns. So obviously this is extremely powerful, both on an attack and defense team. I wouldn't really say it's more powerful on either a defense or an attack team. It just is different. On a defense team, it's going to come up against attack teams that generally won't run healers. So it'll be very powerful in that, even though it's only 15% and it can be countered quite quickly, a lot of attack teams don't run healers. So that would be an issue. However, if someone's running someone like Arav, his rush will obviously do the 15% infection heal. If you've got strong characters with the 15% heal stun weapons, that'll counter it as well. So it is possible with just your basic attack teams. However, generally long term you wouldn't attack Mateo defense teams with characters like Arav. You'd be mainly trying to go in with like alert characters, and unless you're taking Pete on attack, that could be an issue. On an attack team, however, Mateo would be able to do lots of damage as long as he could be paired up with a character that could nullify healing. And there is an obvious character out there that's really good on attack teams, and that would be someone like Wang Fa. And he can do his active and be command rushed by turn 2. And Wang Fa has 100% heal reduction to every single enemy on his active, and on his rush he applies crosshairs to everybody. Also a slow bleed with hemorrhage, but because being paired up with Mateo, once those 3 turns run out, it is going to be a guaranteed takedown for Mateo, because infection just takes someone from 100% to 0% HP. There is no like in-betweens. It's an instant down of a character, and he's doing it to 4. And now if they have 100% heal reduction from Wang Fa and the crosshairs, they're gone. They're not coming back. And the combination with those 2 characters is going to be extremely powerful, especially considering they both work behind a Mercer. And Mercers on attack give you an extra turn effectively as a leader, because they can stun the entire defense. So the combo between those 3 characters could be actually insane. Now, it has also got a specialist skill, and while I don't think this is the most powerful specialist skill, it is actually quite a bit of fun, especially on an attack team. Although this guy won't really attack very often because he's going to be doing his active turn 1. That is a very strong first turn active. And confounding needs you to do a basic attack to get the confounding to actually happen. There could have potentially been a better one here, maybe something more defensive, something like Indomitable or something else really. It didn't really have to be anything too powerful, because the main part of this guy's kit is the active, and it doesn't really rely on anything else. It could have been like Vitality. It could have just been something to keep this guy up a little bit longer. He is definitely going to be a priority target anyway, just because he's such a danger. Confounding doesn't really help him survive at all. It's not really going to help too much at all, actually, because it's hard to say whether you'd actually try and build for crit, because you do need to hit a critical attack for this to happen. When you hit a critical attack with confounding, it confuses the enemy for 1 turn. It's quite basic. You can get through shields. It was like a cheap version of a disarm back in the day. So that's pretty much his usage, but he can use that obviously on an attack team, and you can utilize that over doing his rush. So let's say they've got a couple of healers on a defense team, and you just want to focus those with this confounding, and then you can just confuse them every turn. It's as simple as that, and then wait until the infection wears off and you're taking down very important characters. Like I said before, paired up with the right characters could mean decaps, could mean pretty quick raid wins. I can see the potential for a Mateo team being kind of auto attack team in the future. Now, he does not have an attached weapon, but because he is a strong character, he does have pretty good options, healing stun being the obvious one, which means just extra control on top of that confounding. Again, he's not going to be doing that basic attack first turn, so you could potentially try and go with some other options. In terms of the 4th slot, there aren't too many options that really make sense for Mateo. He could potentially go with the team player version, or like the adjacent team player, just to increase people's attacks and stuff. But if you are trying to utilize this guy as your main threat on an attack team, just based on the fact he can get guaranteed kills really quickly, you would want to generally just make him quite stat heavy, and he doesn't really even need AP on the weapon that he would get, because like I said, his rush is not really that important. It's all about the active. He needs days resist, so make sure you load up on the combat mods with days resist. If you do manage to get this guy, you can pull him as a straight up S-class 5-star ascendable. And I think Mateo, just like I thought of Willie, is very good. He is a powerful character, no doubt, and utilized in the right team could be really, really good. And like I said before, I kind of see this guy coming into a team where it's going to be utilized as just an auto team. You just set up for the first turn, just doing the right things, maybe having to active command rush Wang Fa turn 2, and then you can just hit auto, because unless they've got cleanses or resists, you're actually going to just win the raids real quick. You can make those teams ultra defensive as well, because you're just relying on pure damage from Mateo. He doesn't require any percentage increases in attack. And Mateo also becomes really useful in other parts of the game. Onslaught, for instance, he could give you the win bonus without using rushes, and also survival road, and also extremely difficult survival roads like nightmare survival road. He would destroy any characters on any stage, just because a lot of the time they don't have heals, they're quite slow at rushing. As long as you can stay alive for those 3 turns, you're pretty much going to take out 4 characters every single time. And again, because the bonus of you can just stack the defense up on his teams, you're going to be able to survive the damage dealt out by these very powerful SR stages. So that is Mateo. Like I said before, I do think he's an extremely strong character. Do tell me what you think about Mateo. Will you be pulling for this character? I might. I'm trying to save my coins, as you guys know, just trying to save them up for the return of Rick, I'll say. But Mateo is extremely strong. Tell me what you think about him in the comments. That is the end of my video. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.